Have you ever wondered if something you're doing every single day might be silently feeding cancer cells in your body, that routine you've followed for decades, thinking it was perfectly normal or even healthy? I've seen it happen too many times in my practice. Just last month, Eleanor, a vibrant 72-year-old grandmother of 5, sat across from me completely shocked when I explained how her daily habits were potentially fueling the small tumor we discovered during her routine checkup. The fear in her eyes was something I've seen hundreds of times before, that moment when someone realizes that something so simple, so common in their everyday life, could be contributing to a life-threatening disease. But here's what's truly heartbreaking. Most doctors never take the time to explain these connections. They're too focused on treatments rather than prevention, especially with older patients. Today, I'm going to reveal the common daily routine that millions of Americans over 60 follow that could be silently feeding hidden tumors in your body. This information has already helped hundreds of my patients make simple but powerful changes that dramatically improve their health outcomes. So please stay with me until the end, because this information could quite literally save your life or the life of someone you love. Hey there, I hope you're doing well today, wherever you're watching from. If you could take a second to let me know where you're tuning in from in the comments below, I'd really appreciate it. I love to see how far this important information is reaching. And if you have any questions as we go along, don't hesitate to drop those in the comments too. Before we dive in, if you're new here and you or someone you care about is over 60, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. So I share life-saving information about cancer prevention and treatment specifically for older adults every week. And I'd hate for you to miss something that could make all the difference for you or your loved ones. The common routine I'm talking about today affects millions of Americans over 60, and the scary part is that most people have no idea they're potentially feeding hidden cancer cells every single day. I'm talking about inflammatory eating patterns that become increasingly harmful as we age. You see, after 60, your body undergoes significant changes that most doctors don't adequately explain. Your metabolism slows down, your immune system becomes less efficient, and your body's ability to fight off abnormal cell growth diminishes. But what many people don't realize is that the food choices you've been making for decades start to have a completely different impact on your body after 60. The sandwich you could eat in your 40s without any issues now triggers a cascade of inflammatory responses that create the perfect environment for tumor growth. The sugary treats that were once just an occasional indulgence now potentially feed hidden cancer cells. The processed foods that were convenient time savers now introduce chemical compounds that your aging body struggles to eliminate. This isn't about blaming yourself or feeling guilty about past choices. This is about understanding that your body at 60, 70, or 80 has different needs and vulnerabilities than your younger self, and adjusting accordingly to protect your health and potentially save your life. I'm going to pause for a moment here because I want to ask you something important. What changes have you noticed in your body since turning 60? What foods seem to affect you differently now than they did when you were younger? You know, many people feel alone in this journey, as if the new aches, pains, and health concerns are somehow their fault, or just normal aging that they should silently accept. I understand how isolating it can feel when your body seems to be changing in ways you don't fully understand. It can be exhausting trying to explain these changes to family members who haven't experienced them yet, or even to doctors who sometimes dismiss your concerns as just getting older. This is a safe space where you can share what you're going through. You can simply copy, "Since turning 60, I've noticed," and complete it with your experience. It doesn't have to be a long comment. Just a few words about your observations can be incredibly valuable. When you share your experience, you're not just helping me create more relevant content, you're also helping countless others who may be experiencing the same things but feeling alone in their struggle. Sometimes, just knowing that someone else understands what you're going through can bring tremendous relief. Your voice matters, your experience matters, and together we're building a stronger community of understanding and support. Let me tell you about what happens in your body after 60 that makes certain eating patterns so dangerous when it comes to cancer risk. First, it's important to understand that cancer cells are always forming in our bodies, regardless of age. In a young, healthy person, the immune system quickly identifies and destroys these abnormal cells before they can multiply and form tumors. But as we age, several critical changes occur that make us more vulnerable. Your immune surveillance system becomes less effective at identifying and eliminating cancer cells. Your DNA repair mechanisms, which fix mutations that could lead to cancer, become less efficient. Your inflammation levels naturally increase, creating an environment where cancer cells can thrive. And your metabolism changes, affecting how your body processes certain foods and compounds. These changes mean that the dietary habits that might have been relatively harmless in your younger years can now create the perfect storm for cancer development. This is why a diet high in ultra-processed foods, refined carbohydrates, and certain types of fat can be particularly dangerous for adults over 60. Ultra-processed foods are perhaps the most concerning element of the modern American diet, especially for older adults. These aren't simply foods that have been minimally processed like frozen vegetables or canned beans. I'm talking about industrial formulations made with ingredients you wouldn't find in a typical kitchen: hydrogenated oils, high-fructose corn syrup, flavor enhancers, emulsifiers, and various other chemical additives. A 2022 study published in The Lancet showed that for adults over 60, each 10% increase in ultra-processed food consumption was associated with a 12% higher risk of cancer. Another study from the International Journal of Cancer found that post-menopausal women who consumed the highest amounts of ultra-processed foods had a 29% higher risk of developing cancer compared to those who consumed the least. The mechanisms behind this are complex, but center around three main factors. First, many ultra-processed foods contain potential carcinogens formed during high-heat processing, like acrylamide in fried foods and heterocyclic amines in processed meats. Second, the packaging of many ultra-processed foods contains compounds like bisphenol A, BPA, and phthalates, which are known endocrine disruptors linked to increased cancer risk. And third, these foods typically create significant inflammation in the body, particularly in older adults, whose systems are already more prone to inflammatory responses. Inflammation creates an environment where cancer cells can escape immune detection and thrive. What makes this particularly concerning for adults over 60 is that the digestive system undergoes significant changes with age. The production of digestive enzymes decreases, meaning your body has a harder time breaking down food properly. The gut microbiome, those trillions of beneficial bacteria in your intestines, often becomes less diverse, which impairs your body's ability to metabolize certain compounds and maintain proper immune function. The gut lining becomes more permeable, allowing more inflammatory compounds to enter the bloodstream, a condition often called leaky gut. And the liver, which is responsible for detoxifying harmful substances, becomes less efficient. All of these changes mean that the ultra-processed foods that might have been merely unhealthy in your younger years can now actively contribute to cancer development in your later years. Have you noticed how foods that never bothered you before suddenly cause digestive issues after 60? That's a clear sign of these age-related changes, and it's your body trying to tell you something important. Let's talk about the specific components of ultra-processed foods that make them particularly dangerous for older adults. Refined carbohydrates and added sugars are perhaps the most problematic. Foods like white bread, pastries, cookies, crackers, and sugar-sweetened beverages cause rapid spikes in blood glucose levels. For older adults, who often already have some degree of insulin resistance, these glucose spikes trigger cascades of inflammatory molecules throughout the body. More concerning is the fact that cancer cells preferentially use glucose for fuel in a process called the Warburg effect. In essence, when you consume large amounts of refined carbohydrates and sugars, you're potentially providing fuel directly to any hidden cancer cells in your body. A landmark study from Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center found that reducing glucose availability through dietary changes actually impaired tumor growth in multiple cancer types, highlighting how important this connection is. The types of fats found in many ultra-processed foods pose another serious risk factor for older adults. Trans fats and certain types of omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids, abundant in processed snack foods, fast food, and many restaurant meals, significantly increase inflammatory markers in the body. For adults over 60, whose baseline inflammation levels are already elevated due to age-related changes, this additional inflammatory burden can be particularly harmful. A 2023 study published in JAMA Oncology found that older adults with higher blood levels of inflammatory markers associated with poor dietary choices had significantly higher rates of cancer recurrence and poorer survival outcomes. This isn't just about preventing cancer, It's also about creating an internal environment that makes it harder for cancer to grow if it does develop. I had a patient, Richard, a 68-year-old retired teacher, who was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Rather than immediately opting for aggressive treatment, we worked together on completely transforming his diet, eliminating ultra-processed foods, and focusing on anti-inflammatory choices. 6 months later, his follow-up tests showed that his cancer had not progressed, and some markers had actually improved. While this isn't typical for every case, and I'm not suggesting diet alone can treat cancer, it demonstrates how powerful these dietary changes can be. The artificial additives in ultra-processed foods present another layer of risk for older adults. Food colorings, preservatives, emulsifiers, and flavor enhancers have been linked to various health issues, including potential carcinogenic effects. As we age, our detoxification systems become less efficient, meaning these compounds can remain in our bodies longer and potentially cause more damage. The liver's phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification pathways, which are responsible for breaking down and eliminating these compounds, work more slowly in older adults. This means that chemicals that might have been quickly processed and eliminated in your younger years can now linger in your system, potentially causing DNA damage and contributing to cancer development. A concerning study from the European Food Safety Authority found that certain commonly used food additives had genotoxic effects, meaning they could damage DNA, and these effects were more pronounced in cellular models of aging tissues. What's particularly troubling is how these various risk factors compound each other. The inflammatory effects of refined carbohydrates and unhealthy fats reduce your body's ability to effectively detoxify the chemical additives, while the additives themselves can damage cellular processes that regulate blood sugar and fat metabolism. It's a vicious cycle that creates an increasingly favorable environment for cancer cells. Let me tell you about Sarah, a 75-year-old patient of mine who came to me after being diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. Like many people her age, Sarah had grown up in an era when convenience foods were celebrated as modern miracles. TV dinners, shelf-stable snacks, and fast food had been regular parts of her diet for decades. She was genuinely shocked when I explained how her dietary patterns might be connected to her cancer development. "But doctor," she said, "I've been eating this way my whole life. Why would it suddenly cause cancer now?" This is a question I hear frequently, and the answer lies in understanding the cumulative effects of poor dietary choices combined with age-related changes in the body. I explained to Sarah that it wasn't suddenly causing problems, rather the effects had been gradually accumulating over decades, and her body's natural defenses had been compensating. But after 60, those compensatory mechanisms weren't working as effectively anymore. It's like a dam that develops small cracks over many years. Eventually those cracks reach a critical point where the structure can no longer hold. For many people, that critical point often comes in their 60s or 70s. So what's the solution? Am I suggesting that everyone over 60 needs to completely overhaul their diet and eliminate all processed foods? While that would be ideal, I understand it's not realistic for most people. Instead, I recommend a gradual transition toward a more whole food, anti-inflammatory diet that specifically addresses the vulnerabilities of aging bodies. The Mediterranean diet pattern consistently shows protective effects against multiple types of cancer, particularly in older adults. A landmark study following over 68,000 adults over a 20-year period found that those who most closely followed a Mediterranean diet had a 22% lower risk of cancer mortality. The MIND diet, which combines elements of the Mediterranean diet with the DASH diet and specifically targets brain health, has also shown protective effects against cancer in older adults. These dietary patterns share key characteristics. They're rich in vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, and healthy fats from sources like olive oil, nuts, and fish. They minimize refined carbohydrates, added sugars, processed meats, and ultra-processed foods. But importantly, they don't require perfection. Research shows that even moderate adherence to these dietary patterns provides significant benefits. What specific foods should you emphasize if you're over 60 and concerned about cancer risk? Cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage contain compounds called isothiocyanates that have been shown to inhibit cancer development through multiple mechanisms. They help detoxify carcinogens, reduce inflammation, and can even cause apoptosis, programmed cell death, in cancer cells. Berries of all types, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, are rich in anthocyanins and ellagic acid, which have powerful anti-inflammatory and cancer-fighting properties. A study from The Ohio State University found that elderly mice fed a diet rich in berries showed significantly reduced markers of inflammation and oxidative stress, suggesting these foods may be particularly beneficial for older adults. Fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, sardines, and trout provide omega-3 fatty acids that help combat the excessive inflammation common in aging bodies. Wild-caught varieties tend to have higher omega-3 content and fewer contaminants than farm-raised options. Turmeric contains curcumin, a compound with potent anti-inflammatory and potential anti-cancer properties. Because curcumin is poorly absorbed on its own, I recommend consuming it with black pepper and a source of healthy fat to enhance absorption. Green tea contains catechins, particularly EGCG, which has been shown to inhibit tumor growth and reduce inflammation. For older adults, 2 to 3 cups daily provides beneficial levels of these compounds without excessive caffeine. Just as important as knowing what to eat is understanding what to avoid. Processed meats like bacon, sausage, hot dogs, and deli meats have been classified as Group 1 carcinogens by the World Health Organization, meaning there is strong evidence that they cause cancer. For adults over 60, even occasional consumption of these foods can significantly increase cancer risk. Sugary beverages and foods with added sugars not only contribute to inflammation, but also provide readily available fuel for cancer cells. This includes not just obvious sources like soda and candy, but also seemingly healthy options like many commercial yogurts, granola bars, and breakfast cereals. Refined grain products like white bread, white rice, and most commercial baked goods cause rapid blood sugar spikes that can promote cancer cell growth. Deep-fried foods contain acrylamide and other compounds formed during high-heat cooking that have been linked to increased cancer risk, and excessive alcohol consumption is strongly associated with multiple types of cancer, with risk increasing even at moderate intake levels for older adults. One aspect of cancer prevention that's often overlooked is the timing of meals and overall eating patterns. Emerging research suggests that time-restricted eating, limiting food intake to an 8-10-hour window each day, may have significant benefits for cancer prevention, particularly for older adults. This approach, sometimes called intermittent fasting, gives your body more time in a fasted state, which activates cellular repair processes and reduces inflammatory markers. A 2021 study published in Nature Communications found that time-restricted eating reduced tumor growth in animal models, even without reducing calorie intake. For my older patients, I typically recommend starting with a 12-hour fasting window overnight, for example, finishing dinner by 7 p.m. and not eating again until 7 a.m., then gradually extending to 14 or 16 hours if well tolerated. This approach doesn't require changing what you eat, just when you eat, making it an accessible first step for many people. Another important pattern is meal size and composition. Large meals, especially those high in refined carbohydrates, cause significant inflammation and oxidative stress, particularly in older adults. Spreading your food intake throughout the day in smaller, balanced meals helps maintain stable blood sugar levels and reduces inflammatory responses. Each meal should include some protein, healthy fat, and fiber-rich vegetables or fruits to slow digestion and prevent blood sugar spikes. Beyond diet, there are several lifestyle factors that interact with food choices to either increase or decrease cancer risk for adults over 60. Regular physical activity has been shown to significantly reduce cancer risk through multiple mechanisms. It improves insulin sensitivity, reduces inflammation, enhances immune function, and helps maintain a healthy body weight. For older adults, even gentle movement like walking, swimming, or yoga provides these benefits. Aim for at least 30 minutes of activity most days of the week. Adequate sleep is another critical factor that influences how your body processes food and manages inflammation. During deep sleep, your body performs essential repair functions and regulates inflammatory processes. Poor sleep quality, or insufficient sleep duration, has been linked to increased cancer risk, particularly in older adults. Most people over 60 need 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep each night. Stress management is equally important, as chronic stress elevates inflammatory markers and impairs immune function. Techniques like meditation, deep breathing exercises, or engaging in enjoyable hobbies can help reduce stress levels and complement the benefits of dietary changes. I want to share a success story that illustrates how powerful these changes can be, even for someone who's followed unhealthy eating patterns for decades. Thomas was a 78-year-old retired truck driver who came to me after being diagnosed with colorectal polyps that were precancerous. Like many men of his generation, Thomas had relied heavily on convenience foods throughout his working life: fast food meals on the road, processed snacks, and few vegetables. His typical day might include a breakfast sandwich and hash browns, beef jerky and chips for snacks, a burger and fries for lunch, and a TV dinner or takeout for supper. When I explained how his dietary patterns were likely contributing to his condition, he was initially skeptical. "At my age, is it really worth changing?" he asked. I explained that the human body has remarkable regenerative capabilities at any age, and that his precancerous polyps were giving him a warning sign and an opportunity to make changes before full-blown cancer developed. Thomas decided to give it a try, making gradual changes over a 3-month period. He replaced his breakfast sandwich with oatmeal topped with berries and walnuts. He swapped chips and jerky for apple slices with almond butter and carrot sticks with hummus. Fast food lunches became hearty salads with grilled chicken or bean soups with whole grain bread, and dinners transformed from processed options to simple meals of grilled fish or chicken with roasted vegetables and quinoa or sweet potatoes. He also began taking a daily 30-minute walk and going to bed by 10 p.m. each night. At his 3-month follow-up, his inflammatory markers had decreased significantly, and at his 6-month colonoscopy, his doctor was amazed to find no new polyp formation and regression of some existing polyps. Thomas himself reported feeling more energetic than he had in years, with better digestion, improved sleep, and clearer thinking. "I wish someone had explained this to me 20 years ago," he told me, "but I'm grateful to understand it now." I recognize that changing long-established eating patterns can be challenging, especially for adults who have been following the same routines for decades. Here are some practical strategies that have helped my older patients successfully transition to healthier eating habits. Start by crowding out rather than cutting out. Instead of focusing on eliminating unhealthy foods, concentrate on adding more beneficial ones. As you incorporate more vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and healthy proteins into your meals, you'll naturally have less room for processed options. Make changes gradually, rather than all at once. Small, sustainable steps are more likely to become permanent habits than dramatic overhauls that feel overwhelming. Perhaps begin by replacing ultra-processed breakfast options with whole food alternatives, then tackle lunch choices the following week, and dinner options after that. Consider batch cooking to make healthy eating more convenient. Spend a few hours once or twice a week preparing large quantities of basics like roasted vegetables, cooked whole grains, and simple proteins that can be mixed and matched for quick meals. Many of my patients find that preparing healthy food becomes less daunting with this approach. Enlist support from family members or friends, especially those you regularly eat with. Changing habits is always easier with a supportive social environment. And be patient with yourself. Remember that imperfect progress is still progress, and the benefits of healthier eating accumulate over time, even if you don't follow the ideal diet perfectly. One question I frequently hear from my older patients is whether supplements can help protect against cancer or compensate for past dietary choices. While a few evidence-backed supplements may be beneficial for adults over 60, they should complement, not replace, dietary improvements. Vitamin D is perhaps the most important supplement for older adults, as deficiency is common and has been linked to increased cancer risk. The optimal blood level appears to be between 30–50 ng/ml, and many adults over 60 need 1,000–2,000 IU daily to maintain this level. Omega-3 fatty acids from fish oil may help reduce inflammation and potentially lower cancer risk, particularly for those who don't regularly consume fatty fish. A high-quality probiotic can help restore and maintain gut microbiome diversity, which tends to decline with age and can affect cancer risk. And for those with limited fruit and vegetable intake, a mixed carotenoid supplement providing beta-carotene, lycopene, lutein, and zeaxanthin may offer some protective benefits. However, it's crucial to understand that no supplement can fully compensate for the complex mix of nutrients, fiber, and phytochemicals found in whole foods. Additionally, some supplements may actually increase cancer risk in certain populations. For example, high-dose beta-carotene supplements have been linked to increased lung cancer risk in smokers, and excessive selenium supplementation may increase prostate cancer risk in men who already have adequate levels. Always consult with a healthcare provider before starting any supplement regimen, as individual needs vary based on health status, medication use, and other factors. For those of you who have already received a cancer diagnosis, please know that it's not too late to benefit from dietary changes. While diet alone is not a substitute for conventional cancer treatments, research increasingly shows that nutritional approaches can complement standard therapies and potentially improve outcomes. A study from the University of California, San Francisco, found that breast cancer survivors who most closely followed a Mediterranean diet pattern had a 44% lower risk of cancer recurrence compared to those with the least adherence to this pattern. For patients undergoing active treatment, an anti-inflammatory diet can help manage treatment side effects, maintain strength and energy, and support the immune system. Some specific dietary strategies during cancer treatment include emphasizing protein-rich foods to prevent muscle loss, consuming plenty of fiber-rich foods to maintain gut health during chemotherapy, choosing foods rich in antioxidants to help counter oxidative stress from treatments, staying well hydrated to help the body process and eliminate medications, and limiting foods that may interact with treatments, such as grapefruit with certain medications. I always recommend that cancer patients work with an oncology dietitian who can provide personalized guidance based on their specific cancer type, treatment regimen, and individual needs. Looking toward the future, it's worth noting that the field of nutritional oncology, the study of how diet affects cancer development, progression, and treatment, is rapidly evolving. Researchers are increasingly exploring personalized nutritional approaches based on genetic profiles, microbiome composition, and specific cancer characteristics. Precision nutrition for cancer prevention and treatment may soon allow for highly individualized dietary recommendations that target the specific vulnerabilities of each person's cancer risk profile or existing cancer. Another promising area of research involves specific food compounds with anti-cancer properties, such as sulforaphane from broccoli, EGCG from green tea, curcumin from turmeric, and resveratrol from grapes. Scientists are working to understand exactly how these compounds affect cancer cells and how they might be concentrated or combined for maximum benefit. For now, the most evidence-backed approach remains a predominantly plant-based, whole food diet that minimizes ultra-processed foods and emphasizes a wide variety of colorful fruits and vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, seeds, and healthy fats. To summarize everything we've covered today, the common routine that can potentially feed hidden tumors in adults over 60 is following the standard American diet, high in ultra-processed foods, refined carbohydrates, unhealthy fats, and artificial additives. This dietary pattern becomes increasingly harmful after 60 due to age-related changes in metabolism, immune function, digestion, and detoxification capabilities. The good news is that by transitioning to a more whole food, anti-inflammatory eating pattern like the Mediterranean or minded diet, you can significantly reduce your cancer risk and create an internal environment where cancer cells struggle to thrive. Specific foods to emphasize include cruciferous vegetables, berries, fatty fish, turmeric with black pepper, and green tea. Foods to minimize or avoid include processed meats, sugary beverages and foods, refined grain products, deep-fried foods, and excessive alcohol. Meal timing and patterns also matter, with benefits seen from time-restricted eating and consuming smaller, balanced meals throughout the day. Complementary lifestyle factors include regular physical activity, adequate sleep, and effective stress management. And while some supplements may be beneficial, they should supplement rather than replace dietary improvements. Remember, it's never too late to benefit from these changes, whether you're hoping to prevent cancer or improve outcomes during or after treatment. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end of this video. I truly believe this information has the power to change lives, and I hope you found it valuable for yourself or someone you care about. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with anyone over 60 who might benefit from understanding this critical connection between diet and cancer risk. Remember to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell if you haven't already, so you'll never miss our weekly videos on cancer prevention and treatment for older adults. I read every comment, so please let me know your thoughts, questions, or experiences below. This community is a place of support and shared wisdom, and your contribution matters. Remember, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to your health. Small changes today can lead to dramatically better outcomes tomorrow. Until next time, take good care of yourself. You deserve it.